Careful! Champagne! Oh, he's got a roll! Oh! Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You are always most welcome. Well, you can tell by how little I drew back the zoom there how big this box is. Only drew it back for about half a second. So today, this is a kit that I used to own and sold like a fool. So this is actually loaned to the channel by our good friend Neil from Creative Time Wasting. We'll come more on him in a moment. So it's the Williams FW14B Formula 1 car from 1992. This of course was the car that Nigel Mansell used to win his first World Championship. And frankly, we'll talk about Mansell as well, but frankly, Mansell should have won at least 3 titles. He should have won in 86, he should have won again in 87, and he should have won in 91, arguably. If his car had been reliable in 91, he would have won the title, beaten Senna. And so he could have ended up with 4 titles, actually. 4. And he ended up with 1. It's a travesty, really. He should have certainly won 2 or 3, minimum. Even if you say, take it on the law of averages, but he was very unlucky, he really was. So with this car, it was so impressive. I mean, it had an engine that wasn't brand new for the car. It had actually been basically in service with the previous versions of the Williams. But the car that Williams had in after Mansell left, of course, and gone to Ferrari at that time. He was with them 85 to 87, 3 years. And then left when they lost the Honda engines, basically. And then he was tempted back in 91. But in the meantime, you had Riccardo Patrese, who became his teammate, and Thierry Boutsen, who won some races. But the car wasn't consistently quick enough because it had a great engine. Nothing wrong with the engine, that was the strong part of the package. A little bit of unreliability with it, but they soon dialed that out. By 1990, it was winning races. It was probably the 3rd best car on the grid. But it didn't have the aerodynamic package, and it looked a bit clunky, and it wasn't very. I don't think it was particularly supremely driver friendly at that time. And they brought Adrian Newey in, of course. So we know about Adrian Newey because of his great successes in the meantime with McLaren and Red Bull, of course, and maybe not so much right now with Aston Martin. But personally, I don't think that he has a lot of blame at his door, despite what 1 or 2 people are saying. I think we have a Honda problem there. But anyway, we won't get into that today. So Newey came in with his design brilliance and brought in this very svelte looking car for 1991. Obviously this is the slight development of it, where they adapted it, tweaked the problems they had with the gearbox, because he lost the title because of the gearbox problems basically in 91. It was very unreliable, but then by 92 they got it sorted. And on top of that they brought in this fantastic suspension system that was basically like a hydro-pneumatic system, which was computer controlled rather than having springs. And this made the car able to react to the bumps and things in a way that springs don't, and maintain a very smooth, almost like a magic carpet ride, and yet keep the car very level, and make it have a very consistent aero profile underneath the floor of the car, which Mansell used to great effect. Now, we'll talk about Mansell first of all. A few things. First of all, I want to go back to Neil, because Neil, I'm quite jealous of this, because I've met 1 or 2 of these Formula 1 drivers. I've met people like Jonathan Palmer, I met Derek Bell, the world endurance champion, and I've seen Mansell. I've never actually met Mansell, but I've been just meters from him. I remember I was there in 1990 when he was at Ferrari, and he'd had a problem in the French Grand Prix, where he'd been banging his elbow, and he apparently got a real nasty wound on his elbow, and it's caused him a lot of pain. And I actually saw them give him an injection on the Friday on the practice day. They gave him an injection in his elbow in the pits, the medic. I actually saw that, which was remarkable. And he then walked out and waved to the crowd, you know, all this. So I used to go to a lot of these events, particularly Silverstone. But Neil actually went to a very interesting, and not a lot of people know this one, and we think between us talking about it, we think we know why. In 1986, going back to 86, this is when they had the Honda twin turbo, is it the RA14, I think it was, the engine, the turbo engine, with the IHI turbos, was it? On that one, I think it was. They were very, very impressive and were the class of the field. Of course, they'd lost the championship because Mansell was unlucky again with that blooming tyre blowout in the last race, which, when he was cruising to victory in the title anyway, he was running third. Anyway, a couple of races before that, we worked out between us that they were doing some testing, and I think it was basically a fairly secret test. Not closed, but not publicised. We think it's between the Portuguese Grand Prix, which I think was the end of September, and in October they had the Mexican Grand Prix. And we think they went and did this well, we know they went to Kyalami because Neil was there. And there was a test done, and the reason there's a bit of a mystery around this for two reasons. One, there don't seem to be many records of this, and we think that was because of the unpopular South African regime at the time with apartheid. So it was considered that wasn't on the Grand Prix calendar, that circuit. Good track though, ideal for testing, Formula One. But it wasn't something they wanted to promote or announce, I think. And we think they went between the Portuguese race and the last two races, which was Mexico, and then of course they went off to Adelaide and had this disastrous incident with the tyre explosion. But Mansell was riding high in the championship and looked like he was going to be world champion anyway at that point. And Neil was there. I think he was on holiday. I'm going to show you some photos in a second. But the reason we've got this question mark and why I'm being a bit hesitant about the detail, because they've got the later end plates on the Williams car, which was on the FW14B, and yet there are other things that tell us it was still the FW11A, if you like, the original version. And it was as though they tested, and then in the next race at Mexico, these plates appear on the car, and then on the B version in the following year. So this is the first time I think they were seen. So I'll show you the photos. You can see what I'm going on about here. It might make more sense to you. I'll zoom you in a bit. I'm not sure how much I can zoom you in at this range. Probably need to move the Williams back a bit. The Tamiya Williams, which we'll get into in a minute, don't worry. I know one or two fans amongst you people like Ian Nichols are going to be enjoying this one. Several of you may have the kit still. I wish I still had it. Right, here we go. So this... here we have a young Neil on the left, which obviously clearly makes him slightly younger than me, I think. And he's with Nigel Mansell, as you can see, and this is at the Kyalami racetrack in South Africa. So what I'll do is I'll scroll forward to the pictures. Here we are. Here's Mansell in the car. Now you can see this is the end plates. This yellow bit here. Just zoom back slightly. This yellow end plate is different. On the most of that year, they were a much flatter profile. Didn't have this big delta shape. So we think that's what they were doing. They were testing to make sure they were going to be competitive at the end of the season. Here we've got one of the mechanics with the rear wing. See one of the Honda engines in the background there. You can see the turbos I was just talking about. And it's huge turbos. This is when they had a maximum boost pressure in 86 of 4 bar, and they went like the wind. You know, they were developing 1300 brake horsepower. Unbelievable. And this is inside the actual the pits itself where they're working on the cars, and there's only them there. So I say it's obviously kind of almost a semi-secret test. And you can tell it's South Africa by the clothing people are wearing. Another shot of Nigel there. I think somebody's finger's just in the way actually, just got overexposed with the flash, but in front of his nose. But definitely Nigel. There's his car. Sorry, that's PK's car. You see again these big yellow end plates on the front wing with the tactile logo on it. That is what is different. One of the things that we're obviously testing, I think. Mansell again in black and white. Clearly Nigel, no question at all. There's Mansell's car, red 5. And then no question that's Kyalami on the main straight opposite the pits, coming down the big long straight, of course. Sadly, famous for all the wrong reasons, because that's where the Tom Price accident happened with the fire marshal got killed, didn't he? And Tom Price got hit on the head by the extinguisher, not far from where this picture was taken, in fact. A couple of the guys working on Mansell's car, and I mentioned that you can see they're all in shorts, some of them are wearing even less, which my wife saw these pictures, she got quite excited. Is that Roseanne? I think that might be Roseanne, Nigel's wife, on the right, actually. Not too sure. Car in the sun, ready to go out. Yeah, you see what I mean? They're just wearing shorts. It's clearly extremely warm. So this would probably be, as I say, end of September, first weekend in October, something like that. 86, we think. There's the bodywork, powered by Honda, and mobile sponsorship, Goodyear, etc. Sun Hotels, another South African company. You can tell it's the Kyle Army track, no question. And again, stripping down the monocoque inside, PK's car that is, inside the pits. And this is a difficult time, of course. This is only a few months after Frank Williams' dreadful crash that, you know, disabled him, maybe made him become a quadriplegic. So you won't see any pictures of Frank, unfortunately. And this is probably the test team anyway, but there's quite a few guys there, as you can see. And then there we go, PK's bodywork. Similar scenes. I've got similar scenes in '88 when I was at Silverstone, but that's another story. There we go, Mansell's car with the steering wheel on the top. Good photographs these are, I think. These are excellent photographs. And this is the final shot, and see the mechanics looking a bit quizzical there, as if to say, "Are you sure you should be in this pit, son?" Anyway, just a bit of background. So this is the guy, our good friend Neil, at Creative Time Wasting, provided those photographs, including, of course, as I said at the beginning, there is one of his good self. There we go. Where is it? There it is. There he is. There he is, together with Nigel Mansell. So well done, Neil. Jealous? Not? Yes, I am very jealous. Okay. Yeah, and Mansell was at the height of his powers. This is when he was really pushing PK all the way, and of course they didn't get on famously they didn't get on very well. PK was a bit of a playboy, a bit of a joker, didn't seem to take things too seriously. Could be a bit spiteful, I think, to be honest, and made some very unfavourable comments about Mansell's wife, which almost got him. There was one point where allegedly they had to be separated because Mansell was going to knock his lights out. So there was no love lost, if we saw that on the track. British Grand Prix, where Mansell gave him dummied him down hanger straight and gave him a hefty chop as he came past at Stowe. He was a character, Nigel. I have mentioned in the past, those of you that are Formula 1 fans, a couple of you have said, I think Ian was one of them, and said, "Come on, you said you're going to do a thing about Ron Dennis." I still plan to talk about Ron Dennis. I'll probably do that over on Peter Goes Rogue on my other channel. I'll probably also do one on Mansell, because I think he merits it. Because this for me was the golden age, you know. When men were men in Formula 1, not like this ridiculous new formula. I mean, I'm not going to go on about it now, but this new formula in 2026 I think is just a farce. It's just ridiculous. It's like watching some kiddie's computer game now. In these days you had to have long shaggy hair, yeah, or a moustache, you know, or you needed to be basically a Brazilian or a playboy. If you didn't fit any of that category, you've got no chance, really. Men were men, you know. Anyway, enough of that. So, the car then. So I've got here, which I won't go into any detail, but I've got a lovely book here which I can strongly recommend to you on the subject of Mansell and his championship challenge. Mansell and Williams, Nigel Mansell, the challenge for the championship, and it's quite a big book. This goes into lots and lots of fantastic detail about the car, the team, the teammates, all the characters at the time. Some lovely photographs. Look at that. There's a nice one of the FW14B. And the B, I say, got the active suspension, and is the one that took him to the title. It also had anti-lock brakes, though. They only used it a couple of times, I think. Semi-automatic gearbox. What else did it have? I think it was all fly-by-wire as well. So it was a very advanced car. It was much more advanced than the McLaren. In fact, McLaren rushed their advanced car in to try and tackle the fact that they were getting beaten so heavily by the Williams with their their MP47. That had a fly-by-wire system, and that was the first one that had a semi-automatic gearbox. This though had it for 2 years. You know, of course Ferrari brought it in '89, but then it was terribly unreliable. And it always takes these teams a year or two to perfect it. This is the real deal, though. This is the perfected article. In fact, it was just saying, I think it was in Wikipedia, I read it, and it was saying that it was so successful in 1992 that they had intended to bring the new version forward toward the end of the year after I think the Hungarian Grand Prix. They planned to bring in the FW15, which had got the anti-lock systems, which they'd been toying and tinkering with. And they decided not to bother because this was being so supreme that it would have been sort of a waste of resources to bring it forward. And of course that's the car that Prost ended up driving. Because as we know, Mansell kind of got sacked basically. This is when they had this big row going on where the minute Mansell won the title in Hungary, at the next race, I think it was going to be Italian Grand Prix, he announced that he was leaving the team, and everybody was like, what, you've just won the world title, this doesn't make sense. But this was Frank Williams. He did this with Damon Hill, he did it with Mansell, kind of did it with Prost as well. Senna then wanted to join them, as we all know, and there was this public spat where Senna said he'd drive for free, and he accused Williams of treating Mansell abysmally, which is a bit ironic. They didn't really get on. And there was all sorts of shenanigans going on. But Mansell left, of course, and in '93 won the IndyCar title in a car that wasn't grossly superior to anything else on the IndyCar circuit, just by manhandling it. And he had a couple of nasty accidents, one at Phoenix, didn't he, where he hurt his back badly. But he still won the IndyCar title, which is... So he was actually Formula 1 champion and IndyCar title champion. Held both championships at the same time, which I don't think has happened before. Not at the same time. Remarkable. So that tells you the sort of driver he was. Now, before I get into the kit, one final thing I want to say about the car and what made it special. Apart from it's got the best of everything. It's got a really good engine, lots of power and reliability. They sorted out the gearbox. They added this active suspension where it could, operate, and you've seen these images probably on YouTube, etc. in the Senna movie where you can see it operating on its own up on an axle stand. It's quite remarkable. A very clever piece of kit all round. But when you look at it, I'm going to look at the two versions here because obviously Nigel Mansell was partnered by Riccardo Patrese. Patrese could be quicker than Mansell sometimes, but most of the time he wasn't. And on certain circuits, especially on the very high-speed corners, he seemed to lose out. Patrese was more competitive on Mansell on sort of medium to low-speed corner circuits, where there were more of them. And one of the reasons, and this is something Patrick Head talked about, I've mentioned this once before, but Patrick Head was interviewed about it, and they said, well, how come that Mansell's cornering speeds are so much higher than Patrese's? And he was going through the corners, I think, about something like 10 or 12 miles per hour quicker than Patrese. And there was no difference in the car performance at all, the engine or anything like that. And they said that they had been just as confused and perplexed about this, and they'd done some research at the start of '92. And Patrick Head said, we've realised it's all about downforce and the diffuser at the back. He said basically what Nigel does is he as he approaches the corner, he'll lift off the throttle, and then as he turns in and heads for the apex, even before he gets there, he'll floor the throttle right to the floor again. And this creates a sort of an increased pressure zone from the exhaust in the diffuser, which you'll see in a second. And it makes the car honker down at the back and it really sucks it down, giving additional downforce. Almost like a blown diffuser, actually. He said, now Patrese drives more like someone like Alain Prost. Not quite the same. He's kind of between Prost and Mansell, really, but his style was a bit more classical, where he'd lift off and there'd be a slight hesitation, and then he'd gently work the throttle back in as he got to the apex. And he didn't get this sudden back pressure that Mansell's style, which was very Senna-like actually in terms of this thing about the throttle application. It didn't create that sudden back pressure and therefore didn't create the additional downforce, and this made all the difference. And he said it took us ages to figure it out. It's only when you actually mapped the speeds on the same corner and the throttle pressure, and they did analysis where they overlaid them, and they could see that Mansell was flooring the throttle almost too early, but it actually helped him, and it made the car sit down and just gave him more speed in the corners. That is why Mansell was quicker than Patrese. It wasn't intrinsic skill, it was more a style thing, really. More brutal. And this is what Mansell was like. He was a British bulldog, wasn't he? You know, the only person Senna really feared on the track was Mansell. Make no mistake. He was. They didn't call him Il Leone, the Lion, in Italy for no reason, did they? You know, Mansell left the team, and then suddenly Prost looked a bit ordinary, didn't he, at Ferrari? So let's get into this beautiful kit, which is in lovely condition. Maybe just a fraction faded, but I mean, this has not been in production now for about 10-12 years at least, I think. They're quite hard to get hold of, and I sold mine for, I don't know, 130 quid, which is stupid. Now they change hands for £200 or £300 these, and the rest, especially if it's a nice one. So let's have a look at what we've got. Now, it's kit number 12, because it's 12 scale, 029, so it's the 29th version of their 12 scale range of Formula 1 cars. If you've never had one of these, I can promise you they are fantastic kits, really nice. I don't think anybody does Formula 1 cars better than Tamiya in injection moulded plastic. So I'm going to zoom you in and we'll have a look on the side. The only thing that always annoyed me about these is that they tended to put all the writing in Japanese only, which is kind of frustrating because we need some of that in English, to be honest. But beautiful top view, plan view of the car. You see all the cylinders there in the driver position. And then we've got Nigel Mansell here and Riccardo Patrese, Mansell 5, red 5. Patrese 6, of course. And then you've got a front and rear view of the car. And spinning it around very gently because I don't want to drop it. Again, we've got the top view this time showing all the colours. And obviously they've got the Alf sponsorship and Canon cameras. Again, sadly all in Japanese on the side. Then we've got some nice photos of the finished model showing the monocoque at the front. This active suspension system. It's got a push rod system. Front and rear suspension is push rod on this car. And then finally we've got the engine and gearbox for the longitudinal V10, the RA4, I think they call it RS4 engine, 3.5 litre normally aspirated engine, and the semi-automatic gearbox, and the active suspension control lines you can see there in the blue as well. So there we go. Now I should just tell you that, as I say, £300 is not an unusual price for one of these. Here's the real shocker: you can get a very, very impressive detail up kit, and I can't remember the manufacturer. Is it to do with Hero Boy? I can't remember. But there's a set that has everything. It's got all the additional fancy fine line wiring. It's got the carbon fibre effects for all over the car, very finely. Things like little wires for the stabiliser wires, tensioning wires. All manner of detail that's not covered in the standard plastic kit, but it comes out, Neil was saying, it's nearly £500, I think. I mean, you know, I don't think it's a case of it not being value for money, because I've seen it, and I've seen a couple of these built with this kit, and it just looks like the real car. You know, it just looks like a scaled down real Formula 1 car. But you have got to be on a level of model skill to justify that, I tell you now. And even I look at it and think, I'm not sure. You know, this would be, for me, 3 to 5 years work to make it really perfect, you know, and I just don't know if I could justify that, really. Other people would do it a lot quicker, but it's very intense. You know, you're going to be doing some ultra fine work like you've never seen before. Anyway, without further ado, let's just have a look at this. I think I did put a little bit of tape on just to protect this, so I might just need to remove that. Let me do it this way. Okay, I can do it this way. Here we go then. In fact, that works quite well for us, doesn't it? If I just move my book. There we are. Let's book out the way. There we are. That works quite well. Means we don't lose our lid and get damaged. So, that's it. We have our nice instruction book. Decals, including the tyre decals. Neil's got some additional... he's got the additional MSM, the supplementary camel decals as well, which don't come in because they never have cigarette sponsorship on these. So he has wisely invested in some camel decals for the camel logos, which is very cool. We'll get into all that in a second. So I'll pop that over there. I think I'm obviously going to have to remove that because I don't want anything to get damaged. It's in such good shape, this one. He's really looked after this. And I intend to continue the tradition. So one of the flaps is slightly detaching, but anyway. So, I just zoom you back a bit. And I take that off because I've got some really good protection here, which it needs. You can see the way he packed it was almost bulletproof. He packed it in a really good stout box with, and he got bubble wrap on it, and then on the outer box he had like an additional, like a box section, like end boxes to protect all the corners. It worked a treat, it really did. So I'll be sending it back exactly the same. Now, he didn't mention whether I could open the bags or not. Now they are stapled. I think we're okay. I can always restaple them because it doesn't mean damaging it, does it? So you might just have to bear with me as I unstaple everything. Why don't we start with the instructions, and I think we'll come back to the parts in a second. I'll just remove this protective bubble wrap, and we'll get our guidebook out. Put the decals over there. I'll just walk you through it. Now, if any of you, those of you that weren't around in '92, I've got to say, for me, this is the one of the best, certainly the best time in my lifetime of Formula One. There's been other good periods, but this was probably the best because you had a lot of innovation going on, things like the semi-automatic gearbox and the active suspension. But they had great engines that made the most wonderful sound. You had V12 and V10 engines. This is when they sounded like proper cars. I mean, the cars we've got now sound like hairdryers, and it's a cliche, but they do. I find it very frustrating. I do not approve of the new regulations, and especially when I'm talking about this, because this is for me the peak of it all. I was there in '91 and '92 at Silverstone, both times when you had Senna and Mansell were the kings at Silverstone. No question that they were the two peak drivers, and I watched them chase each other around, especially when I was standing at Baggett's complex, about a third of the way around the lap, as it was, because the start used to be in a different place, of course, between Woodcote, just after Woodcote Corner. And I have to say, I've never quite encountered anything since that's made me feel as fearful, terrified, frankly, as I did then. Mansell coming through in this thing, and this thing was like it was on rails. It was just with this active suspension. It was just so planted. You'd see it coming in the distance, coming out of Copse Corner, and coming towards you, and you're thinking, my God, this is coming at such a rate of knots, my God, he's not going to make it. And it just went through these corners, this sequence of corners, like it was on rails, quite literally. And then just scream past you. I'd be at the exit of Chapel Corner. Not the exit, but kind of mid apex, and he'd come howling past, onto Hanger Straight, and then you'd hear the revs rise on Hanger Straight, and then Senna would appear in a car that wasn't quite as good, but had lots of power, and was sparking and sparks flying in all directions. He had his car seemed to do a lot more rubbing on the titanium skid plates, and it was just absolutely phenomenal to see this. You had to be there. And it was terrifying. I thought, my God, I'm going to end up wearing Senna's car as a hat. I kid you not. And it was the sound. Words will not convey it really, but the sound, the volume of it, the pitch of it, and the vibrations from it. It's like standing next to a jet fighter taking off. That sort of feeling, I mean, I've been there when the Lakenheath Eagles go off, and it's a similar sensorial effect to that. Terrifying, quite frankly, terrifying. And you think, oh God, I don't know how they keep it on the track at that speed. And we are talking about the two of the greats, no question. So trust me, what you see today it's like watching Super Mario Kart, really, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on and have a look at this. So what we got this beautiful kit in the normal style. They have a lot of, sadly not in colour, photographs. It's a shame they didn't do colour, because colour would have been very helpful for the modeller, I think. And this is in the days when they didn't do colour call-outs either. They tend to, they do, again, it's all in sort of black and white, the colour call-out, so it's not the most helpful. But the photographs are useful as references, So we've got the rear wing here, we've got the airbox there, the guy's looking down into the footwell, it looks like. Who's that? Is that David Brown? No, perhaps not. One of the front wings is off there. You've got the front steering box, the RS4 engine. You've got the undertrain. This is what I was talking about before. This is the area where the exhausts come out, and this was part of this critical area I talked about. That gave Mansell the advantage with this extra sort of downforce thanks to his driving style. Got your brake discs at the front, and you've got a covered wheel, exhaust system, and it's a wet tyre on display as well. So it does give you a nice history in English here. Again, not in colour, sadly. I always forget the name of the guy that had the big teeth and the big glasses. No offence intended. But he was quite a star of the Williams pit team, this chap on the left. I tend to remember him, and I always remember David Brown, the little short guy with the blonde hair. I guess they were with the team for lots of years, you know. Anyway, it gives you a full history. I don't think we'll read it all out, because I think I've covered most of it already, to be quite honest. The RS4 power plant succeeded the RS3, a little bit more power, tweaked it, I think, with a bit more torque, didn't they, for 1992. And then there's a shot there of them working on the gearbox, it looks like. Usual sort of tips at the beginning, and then we get into the build. So, let's have a look. Here we go. You start with building your gearbox, and then you've got your main. It's fairly straightforward. This, you've got the gearbox going in there. It's got the base of the engine's got like a screw, which is going to help you to mount it onto the floor later. And then they have these nice metal screws and brackets in these kits, which I do like. Gives it that feeling of building a real car. And you've got your rocker covers on your camshaft covers. And then you're going to install those onto the top of the engine, onto the cylinder heads. On top of the cylinders, I should say. More brackets going on, more screws going in. You've got the suspension pickup points, brackets. Are going to be the mountings for the suspension. Side access panel there on the gearbox. Then you're starting with your fuel injection system and your ignition coils going in. Lots of vinyl tubing. This is what I need. I've lost my vinyl tubing. I don't know what I've done with it. Anyway, just want to say big thanks to Neil for loaning this kit, because it's definitely one that's worth seeing if you haven't seen it already. Let's hope the postman gets it back to him, yeah? Because accidents do happen. Do you know what I mean? Just joking. Anyway, moving on, because I quite like this one, in case you haven't noticed. So we've got the rear actuator rods, and then you've got these the inboard part here that's in the grey. This is the solenoid activation units for the active suspension. You've got to cut your tubing. Don't you see that? There's like a ruler there at the bottom, a measurer for you to cut your tubing to the right length, which you'll need to do. And then we've got our the rear lower arms here. Oops. And you've got some. Now these are proper metal. They're actually. Are they steel? They're quite meaty, these arms, I tell you, because I've worked on them on the Ferrari and the McLaren. So you will need to chop that off, possibly with a file or a saw or something, because they are quite. It's not like plastic, you know. You're not just going to snip them off easily. It says remove. It doesn't say how you remove them. Think about the hints and tips about that. No, it doesn't say. It just says just warns you to file them down afterwards. It doesn't say how to cut it off. Anyway. Then you've got the rear upper arms. You're going to mount those in obviously to these brackets, and they'll mount in with screws. So again, it's a bit like that motorbike I did, the Honda RC166. You're building a miniature engineering piece here. You know, it's not just a model, plastic model, more to it than that. And then you've got your brakes, your rear brakes and your rear uprights going in, complete with your brake calipers with the pistons in. And then you've got the rear uprights and the control units, the pressurization unit for the active suspension hydraulics. All very exciting stuff. And then you've got your drive shafts going in there as well, of course. and then obviously you've got your rear brake intakes, cooling ducts. Over here, yes, we've got more. This like a globe is the pressurization system for the active suspension. I'm pretty sure. Does it say? It just says engine parts. Doesn't? Yeah, they don't. In those days, they didn't give you quite as much detail as they do today. But it's certainly a reservoir, I think, for the. It holds the gas pressure, I think, for the system. So it was hydraulic though, wasn't it? I think it was pressurised by gas and then damped by hydraulics. Then you've got things like your alternator going on. Alternator going on there, and the drive belt for that. Alternator belt. You've got a couple of heat shields coming in here. Then you've got your fuel injector system and the air intake trumpets, which are quite sort of shiny and sexy on these cars. Bringing that all in together, make sure you get your left and right injector banks the right way around. Attaching your injector assemblies here. Wow, it's complicated, isn't it? You've got to take your time, is my advice when you're doing this stuff. Don't try and rush it. Quite a lot of painting to do, fine painting. A bit like my Mosquito at the moment. And then we move on to the tub, the actual monocoque. And they're telling you here, this is where you probably want some of this carbon fibre effect. I don't know if they provide that. We didn't look, did we, yet? They provide some silver foil for the floor. Don't think there's carbon fibre effect. And this is where, if you buy the upgrade sets I talked about, you can get it. There's a fire extinguisher there, special shaped one as well, look. It goes underneath the seat. Tie rods, putting all your brackets in. Oh, there's also you may notice there's a bracket that's going to mount on the other side of the fuel cell. It's going to help you mount the engine because it bolts, of course, directly onto the back of the fuel cell. Hey, that's got to be safe, right? And then you've got tie rods coming in here for your steering, obviously. Building up your steering box there, rack and pinion box. And then we've got our instrumentation with an LCD readout for the driver. And your pedals, pedal box going in. Lots more tubing from the brake pedal and accelerator pedal. Sorry, it's the throttle pedal, not the brake. Again, lots of detailed painting to go on there. Here we have got our steering wheel, of course, with its flappy paddle gear change shifter behind the steering wheel. And, oh, look at this, it's got a proper, the steering rod's got a proper pinion on it. So it's a proper rack and pinion steering. Actually, see how it works there? Actually shows it in the steering box. The rack and pinion. How cool is that? That's excellent. Then you've got to start working on your suspension front arms. And again, you've got to cut this metal piece off. Probably need a file or a saw for that, as I say. Metal saw. Perhaps a Dremel would be the best way to remove it neatly, actually. And a little disc cutter. And then you've got the lower arms going in, upper arms and lower arms coming in together in the next stage here. Again, all screwed in with metal screws, absolutely brilliant. And they provide all these screws and they provide all the screwdrivers, so everything's in the kit you need. Driver's seat belt, these are like a self-adhesive fabric. It's like a decal almost, but it's not, it's like a more physical thing. And they're quite good, actually, they look quite good. Again, some aftermarket options may be better. They can look a little bit, maybe not quite as scale-like as they might. Then you've got your top cover going in there, once you've put your seat and seat belts in. Top cover cowling goes on top of the instrumentation area, top of the nose. And then we've got the front damper activation rods, complete with this active suspension actuator end here where my thumb is. And then there's a control unit, electronic control unit for that system that goes on the top. And obviously, as you see, it's a push rod Push rod is where the rod goes up and it pushes down. The other type is the one it goes to the bottom of the chassis. That's pull rod, obviously. It's push rod here and attaching it all together, and then you're going to work on your front brakes. Then put the uprights and brake discs in together, fitting in your brake caliper, piston calipers in, and the air intakes, and then bringing it all together basically. What's that? E25. Is that a mirror? Is that a mirror? It looks like the fitted. I could be wrong here. It looks like they fitted a mirror, doesn't it? An inspection mirror. I wonder if that's true, or is it something else? Because they often do have problems, don't they, in getting access into these areas. It wouldn't surprise me. Is that a mirror? This part here, E25. It looks like it might be a rotating mirror, so they can see into the recesses of the footwell and the nose. Could be wrong, but it does look like it, doesn't it? See there? And then you bring your top cover down on top. And then you're going to fit the floor. The front floor is going to come in here. Zoom you back a bit for this. Bringing in your floor there. And then we've got the side pods. This is where it gets really complicated on this car, because it's got all these electronic systems and control units and ECUs that do all different jobs. Some for the engine, some for the gearbox, some for the suspension. Lots of them and lots of detail to be added. And you see that's one side, then the other side. All the wires and tubes have got to be brought in here. It's a bit of a faff, but it's, this is a very complex machine. I mean, one of the most advanced Formula 1 cars of all time, quite frankly, and way ahead of its time, really. They said the 15C that followed this was the most advanced Formula 1 car ever, and of course that's what got the technology banned in the end, which was a bit strange, really. I don't really like banning technology when it's useful. And then you bring those two side pods in together on either side of the monocoque where the driver sits. Then we're going to build our radiators up. Let's come back a bit here, don't we? A bit too close. Build up your radiators, which are at the back of the intake, not the front, interestingly. You've got your engine management control unit here on top, very similar to the Ferrari or the McLaren. And then finally you've got your RS4 engine being bolted onto the back of the chassis tub where the fuel cell is. And then you've got more tubing to go in, more screws to go in to bolt it in. Throttle cable there. I mean, it looks a bit nightmarish, but I'll tell you what. I can speak from experience of having built 3 of these. I built the Ferrari T4 back in the day, which is the only model I ever entered into a model competition and won. Yeah, I've never entered one since. And of course I built later than in the early 90s, I built the Mansell Ferrari from 1990, and then I built the Senna McLaren from 91. And I can tell you they're great fun. These kits are brilliant. They're very immersive. They really feel like you're working for a Formula 1 team almost, building it up. You feel like if you've got an interest in that subject, you're going to enjoy this, I'll tell you that now. Anyway, moving on. Now we're looking at the area behind the side pods towards where the engine is, and we've got several intercoolers here, which I think is for I think they're oil coolers, aren't they? Oil intercoolers for the oil system, lubrication system. Also in the side pod you've got the rear support for the rear wing going in there. Then you're going to build up your exhausts. Your spaghetti, you've got to take your time and get this right. Make sure you paint them nicely as well. And then bringing in those exhausts into the engine here. Big manifold. And then you've got, it's quite a short exhaust system on this car. And then it's you use a little jig here. It's a jig which will set the pitch of the angle and the positioning and the distancing between the two exhausts. Then you're going to build up your floor. Again, very like the McLaren, it's got these little brackets all round into which you will screw the top ultimately. Then we've got our exhaust exits in the diffuser here at the back of the floor. Several areas that these on the bottom left. That's the titanium skid plates which create all the sparks, of course. And then at the back you've got the side plates either side of the gearbox, aerodynamic, bit of bodywork, and then you're going to bring that floor in here and attach it all together. It's just in yeah, bringing that floor in up with all the screws onto those brackets, attaching your aerodynamic side fillets, and then you're onto your rear wing, building up the rear wing, all the different elements. Looks like a Monaco wing. It looks quite high downforce, and it's got a gurney flap on it as well, the little bit across the top here. So it looks quite a high downforce circuit this is intended for, to be honest. Ungaro ring perhaps, you know, where he won the title. You've got your airbox being built up here as well. And then you've got your end plates, which we talked about earlier on the earlier Williams version. This has got very, very intricate shaped end plates with these runners, which also have titanium runner strips underneath that run back back to the wheels to channel the air basically around the front wheels. Very, very highly designed, very interesting. You can see it here. You know, that's not your regular front wing, is it? It really goes, it's trying to channel the air around the tyres to try and reduce tyre squirt, as they call it. And then we've got some metal foil coming in here. This is heat shielding around the engine area where it gets very hot, engine and radiator area. And then you're finally going to bring in your top bodywork, the cowling over the engine, bring that down and screw it into those little brackets, of course, which you've mounted earlier. And then finally we've got the wheels and tyres coming on and the final parts of the assembly. One piece wheel, Goodyear stickers on the tyres. It has this tiny vestigial windscreen on the Williams, doesn't it? Absolutely. You wonder why they bother, but it's there really to, again, just to duct the air up over the driver. It's at quite a peculiar angle. And it's really designed to create short-term drag, but long-term it creates a benefit, because it puts the driver's head in kind of a vacuum almost, a reduced air pressure zone. And there you go, you've got your mirrors going on, your wheels going on, and finally the camera goes on. You've got like a wheel wrench style fitting tool to put the actual nuts on, and then you have built your Williams FW14 and it's time to paint it up. So there you go. Isn't that nice? And it mounts, of course, thanks to those screws that were in the underneath the car. There's actually a base. Is that included? Display base? Display base. Is that included in the kit? I didn't know that. I'm not sure if that's actually included, or if it's an optional extra. We'll get into that shortly. But you can have it on display base, and then over here, of course, we've got our sprue tree map, which they put at the end. I never quite understand why they do that, but they are very good, Tamiya, because they give a lot of detail, things like the screws and the bolts and the fitting brackets. So all those fixings are detailed properly. And you do need that, because it's a very, very complicated kit. This is not a weekend build, yeah? I mean, how long did I take to build the McLaren? I must have taken about 4 months, I think, to build it, maybe 5. Wasn't rushing, obviously. I never do. And you get things like, I mean, look at this bag of screws, basically. A huge bag of screws. Look at the number of them. There's got to be 50 or 60 screws at least in them, maybe more, 60 or 70. Look at that lot. Williams Renault FW14 set, screws, bolts, nuts, everything you need is there. Then we've got our, I won't take this one out of the bag because it's the clear parts, and they're a little bit, delicate. But that's your little vestigial windscreen I just spoke of. And it's actually mounted that way. It's kind of counterintuitive. It's actually sloping slightly forward to create this void I spoke of. Then we've got let's have a look at this now. I don't think Neil will mind me taking this out, because it's only staples and they can be restapled quite easily. This is where I end up with staples all over the damn place. With a tick. Right. Look at that. Now, I've talked about this before, about the beauty of the Tamiya plastic and the fact that I have in the past got away without painting it And now you can see what I'm talking about here. It might just want a gentle wash. There's one or two little surface marks on it, and a little possible little drip there of release agent. But the quality of the plastic is so high, you don't really need to paint that white, I don't think. Especially when you consider the colour scheme on this car with the blue and the yellow. There you will need to paint. You will need to paint the blue and the yellow. I would be very tempted if I was building this to leave that white, because I think it gives it a very natural look. And at the end of the day, it's plastic stroke carbon fibre anyway, the real car. So it's not giving it a false impression or anything like that. I just think that's beautiful plastic. Let's put that away so it's not going to get damaged. You can see all the little holes here for where the screws that fit into those brackets when you put it on. Yes, that is lovely and well up to the standard. And then we've got, now this I'm a bit puzzled by because it's in blue. I'm not sure about that. I don't think it should be blue. I think it should be black. I'm not sure what Tamiya have done here actually, so I think that's going to require painting. But let's have a look at it. Oh no, I'm wrong. I'm forgetting. No, what I'm forgetting is, yeah, some of this will need painting, but the blue on the nose is there's a little bit of a sink mark, isn't there actually? Ooh, a slight flaw. Can you see that? Let's zoom you in, see if you can spot this. See it there? It's just got a little sink mark, but that's kind of where the Williams logo goes, so it probably won't be noticeable actually. But the fact that the nose is blue, and apart from that, it's absolutely perfection. These are areas of the car that will be blue, in fact. Will be though, because that's going to be yellow, isn't it? What they're trying to do here is sort of have the colour it will predominantly be pre-coloured. So you can't get away with not painting it at all. But I'd be very awfully tempted not to paint that blue because it's clearly the right colour, and then just paint the other areas that need to be black or yellow or whatever. That's the way I'd go. But you can see here some of this remarkable aerodynamics of this car. So this is the outer, it looks like it's the inner monocoque, but it's not. This is the outer body in effect. You can see the shaping of it, can't you, here? And how it has this Adrian Newey, very slimmed down style. Almost like a Coke bottle shape a little bit. And here where the splitter is, aerodynamic splitter for the floor. And then this area should definitely be black. That's definitely supposed to be carbon fibre. It's even got hatching on it in the moulding. So that shouldn't really be blue, obviously. But, you know, I'm a great believer of painting as little as is necessary. Not to the point of, you know, making it look toy-like like that. But that blue is right, yeah? And the plastic is, apart from that slight sink mark, but I say it's where the badge goes. So I don't think I'd bother painting. I'd be painting the bits that need to be black or yellow, yes. But I wouldn't paint it all, I don't think. I think I'd let them help you with that perfect plastic. Don't forget, every time you paint something like this, we're not talking about model aircraft here or armoured vehicles. It's got to be perfect because, you know, the finish on these is phenomenal. You know, these racing cars. It has got to be perfect, so you can't get it wrong. So that's another reason to try, if you can, if and only where appropriate, don't paint. Yeah, that's my advice. Here we've got the wheels. Da-da-da. Oh, he says, where's the oh, hang on a minute, trying to get the staples out. It's actually quite easy on these. On the later models they seem to be much more difficult, but this era seem to have a slightly bigger staple. Quite simple really. Let's just have a look at one because it's front and rear. I think they were with the OZ wheels, I can't remember now. Sorry, I should have looked at the decal. Let's look at the decals because that would actually tell us the answer to some of these questions. I better warn you, by the way, I am due for my bin to be emptied, so there may be a lot of noise in a minute or two. They are due any time. So we've got here our Goodyear Eagle. That's quite neat the way they've done this. Where's Neil done that? Somebody's gone and stuck a little, like an edge to the to help you lift it, like a lift. See it? Help you lift it off. I don't know if Neil did that or it's been done by Tamiya, but that's excellent. I won't peel it all off, but that's your Goodyear decals. Now, these work very well, I think, but but the problem is that they don't last that long. They'll last 5-8 years, and then they start to look a bit tired, and they start flaking off, to be honest. So if you can, you would be better to actually use a stencil and spray them. Now, here we go. Williams Renault. Look at this. Oh, we've got seat belts. This is all gorgeous. Look at this. So we've got the seat belts here, the Sabelt seat belts. Aren't they nice? That's fantastic. Those, and then we've got the Canon, all the Canon logos, including the Labatt's logo. Is that? Yeah, the Labatt's logo. Labatt's. It should say Labatt's on the side. I didn't notice that. Yes, it does. Is that on the other one? Yes, it's all right. It's just confusing. So the Labatt's logo is actually in two parts. Let me show you the other part of it, so you can understand why I was confused there. You've got the Labatt's logo here. Zoom would be helpful. You've got Labatt's logo there, and then you've got the actual logo here with the Canadian flag that goes over the top. It's like a two-part decal. A little bit tricky, so be careful with your accuracy of how you place that, obviously. But the Canon logos, they look absolutely brilliant, don't they? Look at that. Fantastic. Fond metal wheels. That's the answer to the question I was trying to find. I couldn't remember if it was OZ or Fond metal. Yeah, really nice set. And then you've got all the blue ones here. Lots of blue decals. Just a lovely, lovely set. And that's the front wing one, isn't it? Bull, of course, was the computer company. It used to be Honeywell. It was Honeywell, then it was Honeywell Bull, and it became known as Bull. And now they changed the name again. Now they're part of. Is it Compaq? Did you buy them? I know there was a change of ownership. You know, Red 5. Look at that. That's the one we're all waiting for, isn't it? Nigel Mansell's Red 5. Fantastic. Fantastic. I love all that. And then you've got some, this is the foil I mentioned earlier, shiny foil. On the other side, it's got the template, so you can actually cut it out accurately, which is really cool. Like that. So that's a really nice pack there. You've got everything you need. Put that back for Neil. Make sure it protects his decals. And there's a fantastic. There we go. Make sure that I always try and make sure I put things back as they should be. And don't forget, of course, that we also have that additional aftermarket Camel logos which he bought, which are missing. It's kind of annoying. They did the same with the Lotus, didn't they? Where they wouldn't put the Camel logo on the B-Max kit. I don't agree with it. You know, if it's not illegal, you know, why is it excluded when it can be bought as an aftermarket? I don't really understand why. It may be a licensing thing, but I think it's more to do with legality. And yet, you know, nobody's stopping the aftermarket guys from doing it. Doesn't make sense, really. That's fantastic. Right, pop that over there. Carry on. So, Fond metal wheels, to answer my question, which is why I went in there. I digressed a little bit there, didn't I? Not a short review this one, but it was never going to be because there's so much to cram in and talk about, really. The golden era of Formula One, you know, to watch Alain Prost and Piquet fighting Senna and Mansell, it was just brilliant. I can speak from personal experience of having watched them with my own eyes. You know, Schumacher, Damon Hill was good, but not quite the same, to be honest. And now, you know, Mika Hakkinen was good as well, in fairness. I liked him. But it's just, I don't know. I can just take it or leave it now. It's not doing it for me at all. I do watch it still. It doesn't generate the excitement. I mean, my whole weekend would be, you know, the time when Mansell was fighting Senna, British Grand Prix. I used to go on a Friday, and they used to charge something like £18 just for the Friday. £15 to £18 to get in. And now you can't even do that, even though they put the prices up radically, of course. But now you can't even get a Friday ticket. You have to buy an entire weekend ticket, which I don't want to do that. I just wanted to go, and I didn't want the huge financial commitment of having hotels and all that, you know, when I could watch it in comfort on TV. But I used to go on the Friday and sometimes Saturday as well. And I used to rarely stay and actually go to the race because it was just too packed, and the parking and, you know. I wanted to get the atmosphere and see them and smell them, and I got all that from Friday and Saturday, especially when they're in the qualifying. They're going absolutely flat out. It's just epic. You ever want to see impressive Formula 1 cars? This was your moment. Right, here we go then. So we've got here, this is the, move this out a bit. This is the sprue with all the tools on it. And it's got some of those, it's got your steering rack parts here. That's obviously the wrench for removing the wheels. It takes the nuts off. You've got your steering arms here, and then you've got your hubs there. Also in this bag we've got some, again, see what I mean about, it has got a slight mark on it actually. Has it? No, I'm wrong. What I thought was a slight mark, a fault, is in fact deliberate by Tamiya. Where's my controller gone? That's there, I've lost it. A deliberate thing from Tamiya, so you know where to mark where the decals go. It's like a crescent. I don't know if you can make this out. Can you see that little line in the surface? It's like a raised line. It's very faint though. And it's there to show you where the mark goes for the Labatt's, or rather the camel logo, isn't it, in fact? Where the yellow should be in a crescent. So it's basically a little hint. Yeah, you can see it goes all the way around. It goes round like this. Like that. So that's to help you. But look at the beauty of these parts. So you've got the end plates, and look how it's finished differently. It's got more of a matte finish because of course it's carbon fibre. So again, they're not just doing shiny plastic like a toy. They've realistically made that matte. It's got almost like a carbon fibre-y, weavy feel to it. I'm not sure if that's coming out on the camera or not. And then you've got your your rear wing elements here. I mentioned it's quite high downforce, so it's probably not Silverstone. And this is in the days before they ruined Silverstone with all these silly Mickey Mouse extra corners, cords 2 to 5. You know, can't be dealing with any of that either. It was all right when they had the first bit at the Vale. I didn't mind that so much. And the Beckett's Chapel Beckett's complex. I mean. But then when they changed Abbey, didn't like that. Thought that was poor. And then they got rid of Bridge Corner, which is one of the best corners in the world. You see Mansell coming through there and Senna. Sparks again flying in every which way direction, you know, just terrifying. Here's my bin men, so just get ready for a bit of noise, folks. I'll zoom you back. About to get my bin emptied. It does need it, I've got to tell you. Here we go, annual bin emptying coming up to mess up my recording. Are they on time? I'm just going to look. They're actually half an hour early. But anyway. There goes my rubbish. It's the proper rubbish day today, Black Mirror day today. Let's just hope they don't smash it into my car. Because they're not very careful sometimes, I've got to tell you. Right, they've gone, that's good. So that's that done. Now, this is a bit I can't open because it would spoil it, out of the question. So I'm just going to show it you, but it's very clearly laid out, so I don't think we need to open it anyway. It's nice and clear. So this is all the metal parts and the tyres. And this is all your upper and lower uprights, your arms. You see what I mean? What is basically like a steel arm. So you need to hacksaw that off, or use, like I said, the Dremel wheel to cut it off. Steering rod with a real pinion on the end. See that? Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. That's your steering. So it really steers from the steering wheel. This is the bracket that goes inside the fuel cell to so you can mount the actual engine to the back of the chassis. And I didn't appreciate this, that the engine on this one, which it wasn't on the McLaren, is metal. The engine and gearbox is all metal. So whether that's a move from Tamiya, because this is the later one of these kits compared to the ones I've got, whether they felt that it needed to be more substantial, but certainly on the Ferrari and the McLaren, that this is all plastic, this engine block, and the gearbox. They're not metal like this. So that's epic, I didn't realise that. Here's all your tubing and your wiring. Quite a lot of it, obviously. And you've got all the little brackets are in a little bag inside here. And then over here we've got all the different arms, look at them. Which all screw together, of course. Tie rods, front damper operating arms, and the rear damper operating arms. And then you've got your rear, front lower arms I should say, and the front upper arms. And then you've got your Tamiya brilliant screwdriver, which has this spins at the end, so you can put that into the palm of your hand, and with your fingers you can twirl it, and it makes it really a good design, very clever, very user friendly indeed. I can recommend it to you. So there we go, that's quite something, isn't it? I didn't realise we were going to get a metal engine though. Wow! Explains why this kit was a little bit dearer than the others, I think. Isn't that nice? I'd forgotten that actually. See why I sold this kit, I don't know. I really hope it gets back to Neil okay, this one though, I really do. Right, so he won't mind me opening these with staples. But I'm sure he wouldn't want me to open that because that would ruin it, you know. You can always restaple these. I can restaple them for him, in fact. He says, if the staple now refuses to come out. Play now. Come on. Don't want to rip at it because that would make a mess. There we go. Right, now we've got the airbox. And we've got our engine trumpets. Let's look at those lovely polished engine trumpets. Tamiya do these really well. And again, you don't need to paint them. But you do need to retouch them. Probably something like a chrome Molotov pen is what you're going to need. Yeah, look at that. That's the engine trumpets on top of the engine cylinders. Fantastic. Also, all of your belt buckles for your safety belts and the central quick release as well, and your mirrors. Okay. Then we've got our airbox. Intake, and lots of ancillary parts. So we've got the pedal box here with the it's actually not got a clutch. That's actually a footrest on the left, not a clutch, because I don't think they had a clutch, did they, these? It was a hand clutch, and then just the brake and the accelerator. And then you've got all these little control boxes here for the ECUs, for the active suspension, for your ABS, semi-automatic gearbox, and these all go on the side pods under the cover. Beautiful detail, very nicely moulded these, and again you've got a difference of different finishes here, gloss finishes and like a carbon effect finish. There's your steering wheel, of course we'll have the Renault logo in the middle. Does it have Renault or does it have Williams? It has Williams, I think. I think it had both actually. You've got your control unit for your the rear control unit for the active suspension. Here's that very bespoke shaped fire extinguisher we talked about. Goes under the seat. And then you've got your instrumentation, the control panel in front of the driver, and then the base for the you've got the airbox here for the air intake for the engine, and then this isn't the I was going to say it's the butterflies, but you can't see butterflies. Well, you can in the McLaren. That's interesting. They must have been deeper in the engine, but anyway. Your trumpets basically go on top of that. This goes on. Trumpets go on top, and this goes underneath it. Very nice indeed. Super duper. I mean, there's not that many parts actually. It's not. There are, but most of the little parts are all the screws and brackets. Plastic-wise, it's not over the top at all. well. There we go. I've done that one, and then we've got another, only a couple to go I think, 2 or 3 sprues left, and we will be done. I have a feeling it's going to get quite a high rating, this kit. I really like these, and it's based on my experience, you know. This is the one I haven't built, but it's 95% similar in the basic setup to the others that I've done. I say the only real difference is that metal engine and gearbox, which I was surprised by. I think perhaps they wanted to make it a bit stronger when you're bolting stuff directly to the engine. So you've got metal engine bolting directly to the chassis. Incredible. So I suppose you might have to use some super glue there. Something we didn't really talk about. Now here's all the carbon fibre parts, and this is wonderful. Look at this. Look at the front wing. It's this very high downforce front wing it has. Very almost art-like front wing, which extends back a lot further than they do now, I've got to say. That's the upper front wing, and it's got gurney flaps, this raised lip, gurney flaps on the inside as well. So it tells you how efficient the car was that it could have big gurney flaps. I still think this is the Monaco spec though. I'm pretty sure it's either Monaco or Hungaroring for sure. You can tell by the wing setup. Then you've got your side pods here, onto which you mount all those control units I mentioned. This is the front wing end plate, complete with, I hope you can see this, complete with really good carbon fibre detailing. Can you see that? It's got like the weave of the carbon fibre within it. That's gorgeous. And then these are skid plates that go underneath it and extend all the way back to the wheel, front wheels, to duct the air. So this is the front, this is the rear. It's trying to duct the air, whoosh, this direction, whoosh, away from the wheels. Over here you've got all your intakes, brackets, etc. And again, carbon fibre weave, very evident here, here and here. Isn't it lovely? It's a super kit this is really nice. The moulding is just right though, they've got this nice combo, you know. It's not like they used to be, like the old Lotus 77 or anything like that, 78 I should say. There's a lot of subtlety and changes in texture and tone here that were not in that kit. There's one of your lower elements for the rear wing, I think that is. Absolutely epic. That's the lower element for the front wing. And again, you can see that, sorry, just focusing on that. You can see the difference in the texture there. It's glossy at the front, shiny, and it's got the carbon texture further back. Just proving my point really. Absolutely superb. Neil has sent us another winner kit, hasn't he? He sent some really good kits over for me to review. And I've got to say, this has got to rank amongst the very best. It really will. Right, and then finally, we just got 2 more to go. Some nice silver parts. We'll have fun put this back together. Some nice silver parts. I'll have to say to Neil, do you want me to staple it for you or do you want to do it yourself? Give him the option. He's got 3 options, either I can staple it or I can reseal the bags or he can do it. Whichever you prefer, I don't mind. I think putting it back out as I found it is the least he can, the least I can do, isn't it? And these are just tricky to get out, I just don't want to come for some reason. I can still hear the binman in the background making a din for the next avenue. Right. Oh, these are nice as well. So this is all the silvery parts of the engine and the brakes. So you've got your brake discs here. Carbon brake discs, of course, on these. Yeah, look at that. And then you've got your cylinder head covers, the rocker covers for where the camshafts are. Cam covers, I should say. And you've got, you see the V of the engine. I think, was it 60 degrees? 60 degrees, I think. Was it 75? 75 degrees, I think. And then you've got, is that the sump? Because there's only one of those, so that must be the sump, I think. Here. And then you've got radiators here, of course, and then you've got all your exhausts. All these control units, hydraulic control units for the active suspension. And what else have we got? Oh yeah, we've got the injection system. Sorry, ignition system, I should say. Ignition system here. And the brake calipers, of course. You can actually see the actual the pads. It's cool, isn't it? It's very good. Yeah, I'll show you the side. On the inside, see the brake pads. Fantastic! Look at that. It's really cool the way they've done that. I like it. Anything else I've missed? A few small things like the intercoolers and alternator belt there. It's a cracking model, isn't it? This is going to be a lovely, just one of these kits I've talked about in the past where you feel the history and the engineering, a bit like building that motorbike or indeed the other Formula 1 cars that I've built. You become quite immersed in it, and you start to feel more like an engineer than a model builder, because there's, especially with all these metal parts as well, the screws and the brackets and the screws and the metal suspension arms. It brings it to life somehow in a way that a standard kit doesn't really do. Yeah, just adds a little something, I think. There we go. At least they're not crinkly bags that make a noise. And then last but not least is the floor. So just bear with me while I get those dreaded staples out. Should take me a moment. A bit easier on this one, I think. Okay. And the floor, of course, is pretty big. Pretty big. Yes. Look at the size of it. Wow. And this is the rear diffuser, which we talked about, was very important in terms of Mansell's personal supremacy because of his driving style, of course, as I mentioned. Really led to the exhaust here, so he would apply the throttle, there'd be a big flash of flame out of here as he lifted off, and then apply the throttle again, and then that would suck down the rear, really give this diffuser extra low pressure, a downforce, and bring it right down to the ground, giving much more grip to the rear tyres, of course. Here are the titanium skid plates I mentioned, which you need to paint up. I think it's kind of a titanium colour, you paint them obviously. One there, one there. These are the things that rub and skid, create all the sparks here and here. There's another one, circular one there, and then one here. And then you've got this area, this sort of internal area actually underneath, which is where, on this side, it's where the actual the radiators are, of course. So this is the front and this is the rear. So this is the floor beneath the radiators, basically. And you can see all the little, just going back to the diffuser, you can see all the little sort of all the rivets, can't you? Where it's riveted on. The diffuser vanes, if you were, that create the flow, dedicate the airflow. This is relatively straight compared to modern diffusers. It's actually quite simple. Now, I mean, now they seem to have gone to absolutely bizarre lengths. And you watch some of these programs like this chap, I've forgotten his name, with the afro hair that does the tech talk on Formula 1 on YouTube. Can't remember his name. He goes into the details and looks at all these little veins. And you look at them and you think, good grief, you know, really? Some of this looks a bit... There's so much clutter on them, isn't there? I thought the idea of this new generation was we were having simpler Formula 1 cars that wouldn't have all that mumbo-jumbo on them, to be quite honest. And yet we seem to be, it seems to be like the sprouting little wings. I noticed on the new Ferrari, some of you may have spotted this at the weekend, that it's got they've now put an aerodynamic wing on the actual halo, which I've got nothing against Ferrari, but I wouldn't allow that, because the halo is supposed to be there for safety. For they've put this winglet on it on the central, which I thought was an area you weren't allowed to develop, and I don't think you should be allowed to either, because if something hits it in an accident, that winglet could end up as a missile in your face. Quite frankly, I don't think Lewis Hamilton or Charles Leclerc want that hitting them at 180 miles an hour. I'm surprised the FIA have not banned that one. Although I did see some images from the race in China last weekend, and I couldn't see the winglet in the race. It was definitely on there in practice. So whether they removed them, I don't know. But I don't think that should be allowed for on safety grounds. I think it's a bit silly. Well, there we are. My God, it's a beautiful thing. Why did I sell mine? What was I thinking of? I remember thinking that I was worried about the paint job. And at the time I was quite concerned that I wouldn't be able to do it justice. But I don't really feel that today. And obviously this was about 12 years ago that I let it go. What a silly mistake. I wonder if the way the economy's going in the UK might be biting with Neil. I wonder if we can have a small negotiation. Yeah, 50 quid? Yeah, do you think? Anyway, to be continued, that one. So what do I think? I think it's an absolute 10 out of 10. Is there anything in there I don't like, being really picky? Not really. You got to remember, I have made these before, so I've got some experience. Nothing in there has disappointed me or surprised me. In fact, it has got this step up, because you've got this metal engine and gearbox, which I've never seen before. They're normally plastic on the other kits. So that is something I wasn't expecting. And it's got all those things that I thoroughly enjoyed building on the McLaren and the Ferrari. And it's got beautiful plastic, I know there was that little blemish, but as I say, the Williams logo could definitely be put there, and I don't think you'd spot it. I think it would just take the eye away from it on that little sink mark. And the rest of this blue area, just perfect. You see what I was talking about? So these blue areas, I just don't think you need to paint it. The blue and the white, you don't need to paint. You just need to paint the yellow. You only need to paint the yellow. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. I've seen people paint these, and I've thought, you know what, you haven't quite nailed it, and it's not easy. You need to nail it, yeah? If you're going to paint it well. And if you're not 100% confident, paint as little as possible, But from my own experience, I think you could make that look brilliant by just painting the yellow. I really do. And then maybe just clear coat it on the top just to seal everything in like the decals, because you need to do that, otherwise it will peel in time. But I think that... to get that level of gloss, it's got beautiful glossy white plastic, which looks flawless, blue plastic, which looks flawless, you know what I mean. So don't be frightened of kits like this. The only frightening thing about this kit is the price. I'm sure Neil will take 50 quid, surely, times are hard, come on. Anyway, thank you to Neil, and thank you to those great photographs he provided. Totally jealous, he met Nigel Mansell and had some photographs taken with him. One of my great heroes in motor racing, Mansell and Senna, Sterling Moss, probably my 3 favourite drivers of all time, really, to be honest. And I met Sterling Moss, actually. I briefly met him at Alton Park, but anyway, didn't get a photograph, sadly. He was actually driving through the gate as I was standing at the main gate, and he spoke to me. He said, "Do you think I'll get through?" And he's in a BMW Z4. This is about 1992, from enough this year. And he said, "Do you think I'll get through?" And I said, "No, you, Sterling, there's yards of room for you, no problem." I stood aside. He laughed, And he had his wife with him as well. They drove through into the paddock. But anyway, yeah, I remember that. A really nice chap. Anyway, Sterling, Ayrton Senna, Nigel Mansell, my 3 favourites of all time. And I think that this was such an iconic car, an epoch-making car, One of the greatest Formula 1 cars of all time. Supremely successful. Even Patrese was successful with it. I mean, if Mansell had not been there, Patrese would have been champion, I'm sure. But Mansell just had that extra bit of brute courage, and I wouldn't say it's natural finesse in the way that Senna had, but he had such control, fearlessness, and took it by the scruff of its neck and just made it win, didn't he? Fantastic, just what we needed. So there we go. Thank you to Neil. 10 out of 10 to you. Hope you'll give me a like, give me a thumbs up. Thank you for watching the review. Hope you enjoyed it. I say in the future I think I will do a talk about Nigel Mansell. I probably will do a talk about Ron Dennis as well. Over on my other channel, Peter Goes Rogue. Please go and have a look at Peter Goes Rogue. Need your help over there. Still haven't got to 1,000 subscribers yet, and we're looking for that as soon as we can. So please have a look at the link below and you'll see it's there. And until next time, I'm sure that I shall be back very, very soon, and something more to entertain you. And if not that, it's going to be an update on the Mosquito. So I'm trying to crack on with it, you know. And until next time, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves. Stay well, stay safe. Until next time, thanks very much for your time. Take care, and bye for now.